Okay, if you've been paying attention to guitar news, you've probably seen this all over Instagram and news from the NAMM show. We finally have it in our hands. It's the Martin GPCE Inception maple guitar. We're going to tell you all about it, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for custom swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, we're going to record some new ones. I keep getting asked that. We are most of the time in different places throughout the week, so it's kind of hard. But we're going to do that with video, so that'll be fun. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Christopher Nolan and Martin Guitars have collaborated on a new guitar. Just kidding. That'd be kind of cool.
I wish.
The last time Martin collaborated with anyone in Hollywood, a guitar got broken.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
The Inception was announced, early January?
Yeah, right before NAMM.
Right before NAMM, which is like such a weird thing to do.
Seriously, like if you want to tease it, but wait till NAMM, guys.
I mean, we had to wait till NAMM to see it.
Yeah, for real.
But we see it now, and we can see through the bracing on the inside. But Inception is a guitar that kind of exists outside of any series that they have. It's like a new thing.
I'm going to go out on a limb, write this down. Chris said on this date, Inception will be part of a new series.
Because
this one has a nomenclature of maple appended to the end of it.
And it's got a body style in it too. It's not like the Inception is not just the GPC. Right. It's not just maple, but this is a GPCE and maple version of the Inception.
Yeah.
So we can get into that in a minute because I want to hear your thoughts on what you think will be next.
Sure.
But the Inception is a radically new, traditional-ish looking, but on the inside and I guess on the outside, something a little different.
Very different. Yeah. It's a cool guitar. This is our first chance actually playing it. We saw it at the NAMM show. In fact, if you follow us on Instagram, you may have seen some photos of the inside of the guitar. I appreciated they had one that was kind of cut in half and hinged, so you could open it up because, on the outside, like Cooper said, it looks fairly normal-ish. It's different from Martin, definitely, but within the market as a whole, not something that would make you really kind of turn your head to one side. Inside, that changes dramatically because it has what Martin is dubbing as skeletal bracing. And that is where the bracing has been cut. It looks like utilizing laser, which is how I would do it. Some of those cuts are so small, CNC would just be ridiculous. So I'm sure they're using laser to cut the bracing. And very similar to how a suspension bridge is built, it's allowing the bracing to have the strength that it needs, but to be even lighter than a typical solid spruce brace would be.
Yeah, so I mean, even just kind of looking inside, the back braces, the X brace, everything has that skeletal pattern in there. There's also channels routed in between each of them, so you can really see it. And like Chris said, we have photos and everything. But it's like an amber tone GPC kind of thing, and spruce top, but the inside radically different, and the back and sides are also pretty interesting.
Yeah, utilizing maple for the sides as well as part of the back with a wedge in the middle of walnut. Yeah. And so what's effectively happening here is all of the woods being used on this model are North American tonewoods. Yeah. Walnut, maple, and spruce are all North American tonewoods. So a nod to conservation and probably a lesson from the pandemic too, I would say. Has informed this guitar. So the bridge, remind me, is that walnut?
Walnut on the fingerboard and the bridge.
The bridge is a different shape. It's kind of got this slope to it. I forget what they're calling that shape now. But it's cool, and I like that it has an LR Baggs anthem in it.
Yeah, that would be the E in the GPCE.
That's it. And very cool inlay. Do you remember what the name of this inlay was?
I do not, but it kind of mimics the hexagonal, laser cut on there. They should have done, Josh brought this up earlier, they should have done the top from inside.
That's right. Just have the top spinning on the headstock.
Yeah. Speaking of headstock, it's got Grover open gear tuners on there.
In gold.
Yeah, it's a super light guitar. because the braces always add about 10 pounds. But yeah, it's very, very light. It's satin finish. I just think it looks sharp. I think it's interesting to do it in the GPC body to start, because this isn't a triple O or OM or Dreadnought, but it is kind of their more modern-ish type body shape, besides maybe the SC. But I think it's an interesting experiment that I think pays off. The lightness of the bracing, the sustainable tone woods, it's a pretty cool direction to go in while not being radically, it's not a carbon fiber guitar, which, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But I think the sound is good. Now, one of the interesting things is the strings that they put on there, I think, inform the sound,
Definitely.
which we've both talked about. But this comes with the Lux.
The Lux Kovar strings.
Shout out to Joey O.
Yeah, I know that you...
That's my dog right there.
I know that you all are using Lux Kovar strings on your guitars now. If you're not, Martin unveiled them at the end of last year, kind of Q4. They also laid down a challenge that has since expired, but it was, try these. If you don't like them, they'll basically pay for the strings. But they're based on the retro.
They're kind of retro-esque, and that's the thing. With the sound of this, you will hear in the demo. I don't know if you've noticed in the last few months, Josh has been putting 2 mics on the guitars, which I think is pretty neat because it expands, I think you get a closer look with your ears. But I played a lot of guitars today. This one is very, very mellow sounding, pretty dark, and part of that, I think, is the tone woods that are informing it. But really, I do think the strings do inform the sound of what you're going to hear. Now, these are the Lux. We have a lot of Martin strings. If you love this guitar and you don't want it to ship with the Lux, we'll put some lifespans on there or whatever you want. But it does, now we haven't done the demo yet, so you'll hear it, but I think with the sound of the strings that are on it right now and the tone combination, the feel and everything, would be a really nice close-up condenser mic recording guitar. Because it's just such a sweet, mellow, warm sound. But you could throw some phosphor bronze, or if you like 80/20, put those on there. And you'll get a little bit more of that brightness and that cut and everything. Yeah. But as it stands right now, I'm happy with the sound. We didn't get to hear it at NAMM because you can't hear anything at NAMM that's not drums or a saxophone.
I played a guitar. Were we at the Firk booth?
Yeah.
And they said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Sounds like a saxophone," because that's all you.
That's what you hear. It's interesting, in a huge convention center filled with massive electric guitar amps, the sax is cut through.
They really do.
And the drums, but that's like a low, droning, disgusting roar. We're not a drum channel here, all right? Drummers beware. But so there's no way you could have heard this at the show. However, you can hear it now, so take a listen.
Okay, so there you have it. You've heard it. We're going to give you our thoughts on how this guitar sounds and plays. Someone asked me when it was first kind of launched, I was talking in the store, what do you think? I said, I think it's very cool, unless it sounds like it's stuffed with socks, and then it's not very cool. It doesn't sound like it's stuffed with socks. So it's very cool. Yeah, there, and video. I want to hear your impressions, and then I'll give mine.
So I will say that our guy Colin at Martin is a big champion of North American tonewoods. He loves walnut. He loves maple. He's made his own guitars out of those woods.
We're doing a cool guitar.
We are. That's
made
a
of
little
walnut
sneak
Colin,
preview.
so.
Yeah. So he is the guy that I think they
He
want.
is the guy.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
But
he's the guy.
He is the guy on that team in that company that I think will champion a guitar like this. And I think that's what it's going to take is people that are interested in an American-made guitar that's made of American tonewoods and sounds good because it doesn't always have to be rosewood or mahogany.
Mm-hmm.
And while the bracing is sort of a radical-ish new thing, I mean, it's not like they're the first to do something like that, but
I'll talk about that.
It's almost like they're pitching it as like this is a whole new thing. But at the end of the day, there are GPC style bodies out there with walnut back and sides and with maple back and sides, and it's if you want to choose to see this guitar as something that's wildly different and that makes it attractive to you, go for it that way. If you want to see it as this is kind of an interesting, refreshing take on something that's not crazy and radical, it's also not that way either. It's like, it's a nice kind of grand auditorium, grand performance body shape with tonewoods that have been proven to be good tonewoods.
Yep.
It's not like they're cutting down ash in the middle of LA and throwing it on a guitar. These are proven woods that make a good sounding guitar, and the bracing is a nice feature to be added that I think if people really like it and it makes a noticeable difference, it can be explored further. But as of right now, it's a nice, sweet-sounding, mellow Martin that I think would fit in a recording studio, and it's got an LR bags in it, so it fits on a stage immediately as well. That's my take.
Here's my take. So, jumping off with the tonewoods, I think what Martin has done is they've identified tonewoods that they typically don't work with, and have approached it from a standpoint of getting it to do what they want it to do, coming up with a particular tonal profile that works for Martin. And Josh described it, I think, in the way that they want it described and how they built this guitar. Most people, we've talked about this on the channel, associate maple with brightness. And I think that's wrong. Maple is a very flat EQ tone wood. And it's bright historically a lot of the times because builders will build a guitar with maple exactly the way they built a guitar with rosewood or mahogany, and it's different. And when you do that, you're going to accentuate probably brightness because of the way it's been braced. So I think they've come at this guitar, with an end in mind. And so what I've said about maple and spruce, it's the same reason they use it in mandolins and cellos and violins, is you can take a very flat response EQ tone wood, and you can make it do kind of whatever you want it to do to an extent. It's never going to have a ton of overtones, but you can accentuate certain aspects of its tonal profile, and you can have some really nice sustain, and that's kind of what I think of with maple, and that's what they've done here, is they've utilized this new skeletal bracing design and combination of tone woods, because I think walnut's very much like maple as well, with a little bit of mahogany. It's like maple mahogany had a kid. It's named walnut. That's what I think of. And so the combination of these in this guitar, both country of origin, conservation, and the ability to shape its tone, I think all kind of lend to what they're doing here. Let's talk about skeletal bracing. It's not new. You and I have talked about this the minute this came out. It's the first time I've ever seen it done by a large manufacturer like Martin. It's typically been something that small luthiers have done. One of the most well-known currently building guitars like this is Ryan guitars, and those are really amazing, astronomically expensive guitars. And he even does some cool like honeycomb bridge plate type stuff. Really cool stuff. But yeah, outside of some of these small builders, it's not something that you typically see very often. And the design idea is sound. Like I said, it's how bridges get made, right? How do you balance lightness with rigidity? Well, you remove material very selectively so that you can have that lightness of material, but you can have the strength where you need it to be. And as such, this isn't scalloped in the traditional sense. If you look at the photos of how the bracing is, it's kind of half scallop tapered would maybe be a better way of putting it. And so they've just taken a different approach to do what a lot is done. And then to your earlier point, I think the strings are heavily influencing both the initial response and the volume that you can get out of this guitar. So with these strings on, there's a volume ceiling. And so we're describing this as mellow for two reasons. One, these strings always bring out a note fundamental. So it's just like that fundamental first, and it tamps down on overtones. And that's true if you put it even on a rosewood guitar. Yeah. Like the retro strings on a rosewood guitar, the overtones kind of come down because there's less brightness with these strings overall. But there's also not as much of a volume ceiling as you would typically get with a Foster bronze string. And so I think one of the things we probably should do as a follow-up to this, or maybe on social media, is try this with Foster bronze strings, because I'm interested in how it sounds. That being said, I like the way this guitar sounds. Yeah. You said it sounds good when I was playing it.
It does.
I like the mellow aspect of it. I like the fact that it's a warm maple guitar that I'm playing, which is cool. And there's a really nice sustain. And so if you play fingerstyle guitar, usually if you want sustain, you're dealing with overtones from rosewood. And most people like that. Maybe some don't. With this, you really get a really nice, mellow, sustained note that I dig. It's not a loud guitar by any means. Again, with these strings on, I think it could be. But I really like the tone and where it's going.
I think they did a good job. Now, to end the video, for those of you that missed the podcast, because Chris did say we're working on it, it's been a busy time, and we've been saying that for months and months, but it's true. I want to do a quick rapid-fire podcast-esque conversation.
Let's do it.
Now, to close it out. So, obviously, this is the inception. Mm-hmm. Martin dreamed of something, and then it, made it a reality. So this is the inception. Now,
maybe what actually happened is I dreamed of it, and then I planted an idea in Martin's mind.
So here's my initial thoughts. I want you to add on some.
Okay.
The D200, you remember that one? Mm-hmm. That's Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Wildly expensive. Okay. There's a bit of a motif of like this ticking clock. So getting into Nolan stuff.
Not popular in Japan?
Not super popular in Japan. Okay. That's a bridge too far. Bridge, it's all coming together. Okay. So then next, I think you take, what's the Super D?
Yes.
Dunkirk.
There you go.
Dreadnought, warship kind of vibe. Misunderstood. A little boring when you kind of get into it. That's not to say I don't like the Super Ds, but we can't get them, obviously. So whatever. I'm not going to rewatch Dunkirk.
There really is a one-watch movie.
That's a one-watch.
Yeah.
Now, Memento, I think that's going to have to be one of the street legends, because it's got a bunch of stuff all over it.
Sure. You don't know what's going on at first?
Yeah, you know what's going on. Tenet. It's got to be something that makes absolutely no sense, right?
The Felix the Cat guitar?
That's pretty good.
How about the American Chopper's guitar?
Yeah, it's one of those that I saw and I got upset, so I don't want that. We're getting ideas fed to us from Josh.
Martin doesn't make the Machine Gun Kelly guitar.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly, yeah, that's good. Now, to end it out, you tell me, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. What are those three movies as guitars?
Oh, wow. Well, they're classics that everyone likes, right? It was a redo and kind of a relaunch.
Yeah.
So how about Batman Begins that started it off? Was let's go with that. That was the 2013 D18 redesign.
You read my mind. Because
Boom.
that's mahogany version of Christian Bale, but then he beefs up a little bit more
Beefs
later.
up a little bit
and then
more.
we're moving on up to Rosewood.
Well, so now people are like, oh, hey, heads turned. I like where you're going with this. What are you going to follow it up with? Reimagine 2018 series, HD28. That would be your Dark Knight.
Because it's the best.
Right? Because it's the best.
It's the best. HD28, can't beat it. Dark Knight, you can't beat it. Now, what's something that tried to beat it, and it was pretty good, but...
Oh, this is going to be controversial. I don't know. I got to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I think you can make the case that's like Dark Knight Rises could be HD 35 because it's fantastic, but it's going to be pretty hard, and only a select few people think that it beats the HD 28.
I've got one for you. Dark Knight Rises is the OM21 because it didn't actually change at all. It stayed basically where it was.
That's pretty good.
And it's a good guitar, but again, not as well appreciated.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
Now, you remember there was that one guitar that was blue that had all the gemstones
That's
in
gonna be
it.
Inception?
No,
that's going to be
that's Interstellar right there.
Yeah.
And I figured out Tenet is the backpacker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made a lot of promises, but...
Well, and sometimes you look at the backpacker and you don't know if it's coming or going.
That's true, and I don't know about you, when I saw Tenet, I couldn't hear a damn thing in that theater. And that's our show for you. Thank you for tuning in. The Inception is available now. We have this one. This is a demo from NAMM. If you want it, we got it, but we do have orders coming in, and anticipate what else is going to get incepted in the future.
One last note I'm going to say about this, since we're going with the idea of Inception and Christopher Nolan movies, since that idea was, again, planting the idea. This guitar, I strongly believe, is the result of the SC13E. Because they did the SC13E. When it came out, I said this is one of the most important guitars Martin's made in 20 or 30 years, because they were willing to like do something different. Not just an offset body with a bolt-on neck. After all those years of like Martin fans and Martin kind of fueling the fire of decrying Taylor for doing a bolt-on neck, they're like, we're going to make it slide and bolt it on and do an offset body and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm here for it. Yeah. I'm here for it because they're trying something new. And we were huge fans. We're like, you need to make a US version. Spoiler alert, they have. We're going to do that. But I believe the success and the embracing of something modern and different is what gave them the opportunity to do the Inception. So they incepted themselves.
They planted seed
with the SC13E, and that's where I'm going to stand on it.
Yeah, that's good for me. So buy this one from us, or wait until we get some more in, and they'll be here. They're going to be around, and stay tuned for some cool SC stuff. Be ready for it and turn your notifications on when you subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Tell us your rundown of the Nolan and Martin, kind of stuff. And
Insomnia, we got to figure out Insomnia. Which Martin guitar is Insomnia? Let us know in the comments below.